Women's Month and National Women's Day exist to remind us not only of the past women who stood in solidarity for our freedom, but also to acknowledge the present-day progress of women and all races, religion and upbringing, despite the challenges faced. On this special Women's Month feature, we continue to profile remarkable women who have made a huge impact in their different disciplines and sectors of the economy. Joining us virtually is former UCT Vice-Chancellor and former World Bank Managing Director, medical doctor, activist, businesswoman, Dr Mamphela Ramphele. A very good morning to you, Dr Ramphele. Thank you so much for joining us and welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning and thank you for the invite and halala to all the women.
Halala indeed to all the lovely women out there. I was just saying off camera that, I'd need an extra 30 minutes to list all your other hats that you wear, but we'll just leave it there for now. So the juxtaposition, Dr. Ramphele, of the women of 1956 and the women of today is obviously inevitable. So from your perspective, do you think the celebration of Women's Month speaks to how women are socially treated and how they are economically struggling?
The tragedy is that we have all the opportunities given to us by our Constitution in 1994 to have made enormous progress as a country, because this is not just about women. Right. It's about a society that recognizes that we have femininity and masculinity as human beings in all of each one of us. The women represent the feminine, and the feminine has much to offer beyond giving life, because you can't have children without women.
Sure.
And beyond the nurturing instinct that is wired into them. We have women dominating higher education right now as students, and they are doing exceedingly well. But the society has not yet embraced the values of gender equality and equity, the values of Ubuntu, because that's what it is. When I grew up, I was brought up by my great-grandmother. She had no education, and yet she was treated with such respect because of the wisdom she embodied. She taught us so much through storytelling, because she embodied the values of Ubuntu and feminine.
Right. Dr. Ramphele, let's address the elephant in the room now, shall we? South Africans are wondering what on earth happened to Aang SAA, a party that you founded, as it did not make a showing at the recent May elections, and not much was heard of the party since you left. And I suppose the broader discussion here is the sustenance of political parties founded by women. Case in point, of course, is Aang SAA, whose public participation has been unimpressive. We also had the Independent Democrats founded by Patricia de Lille, which was swallowed up by the DA, even though, well, she bounced back to form the Good Party. We also had the African Democratic Change founded by Dr. Makosi Khoza, and it never saw the light of day. So what do you think is the issue here? Could it be women forming parties that do not necessarily resonate with the broader needs of the masses, or could it be the manifestation of South Africa as a patriarchal society?
All of the above, but the most important reason for Aang failing is the ANC. The ANC is an undemocratic organization. It systematically kills opposition. They did so with Cope, they did so with Aang, and now they got their upcomings from MK. It did because Zuma knows exactly the script. And so this is a reflection not on women and their leadership capabilities, but a reflection on a society that has yet to embrace democracy as an expression of a diversity of views. And so unless you are part of the ANC inner core, and now, of course, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with MK, with Floyd now being part of that process. Now, EFF survived because it knew the script. So there was no way the ANC could infiltrate the EFF. And so all other parties are gay for the ANC. And that is tragic, because that's not what the likes of Sisulu, Mandela, Tambo would have liked us to be seen as. We should have been a country which brings out the best in all of us, whether in the political sphere, social, economic, and in the broader cultural spheres. But we don't, because we have this notion that unless I am dominant, I'm not going to allow anybody else to have space to articulate a different view of where we could be and how we can get there.
And you're one of the founders of the Black Consciousness movement that sort of identified psychosocial liberation as a prerequisite of a true emancipation of a people. And that emancipation, of course, starts with self-liberation that unleashes the full human potential. Clearly, as a country, we are not self-liberated. Racism is still infiltrating our society, corruption and all other social ills. So what would it take for us to realize our own full potential?
Well, again, the Black Consciousness movement was not an opposition party. It was a movement to liberate people, as you say. And it wasn't sort of psychological. That's the core. The reason we are not making progress post-1994 is that many of us are still subjugated. They still feel less than. Both women, in terms of the patriarchy, and Black people. The reason why people become so angry at the ANC being in coalition with the DA is, again, that inferiority complex that will be swallowed by white people. How can 5% swallow 95% of people? It's inferiority complex. Now, unless we get rid of the inferiority complex within each one of us, and women also get rid of the inferiority complex in us, which makes us want to pull down women who succeed. And I remember during the Aang days, ANC women looked at me like I was some kind of witch who should be destroyed, because they have been inculcated with this notion that any woman who stands up and wants to lead, there's something wrong with it.
Would you also attribute that to that inferiority complex, or just generally women pulling other women down?
Why women pull other women down is because of the inferiority complex.
Okay.
If it's not me who's been up there, it means that she thinks she's better. Who is she? That's the question. That is a sign of an unliberated soul. So what I would urge South Africans to do and pay attention to is the self-liberation process. We have in our school curriculum life orientation. Every one of our children should be engaged around the issue of who are you as an African, because all of our children are Africans. And the gift of Africa to the world is Ubuntu. Mm-hmm. I am now talking to people in the US, everywhere else, about the gift of Ubuntu and the compassion that it embodies.
Right.
Why? Why there are people outside there interested in this, and we here in Africa are doing everything except to show compassion to ourselves, to those who look like us, and to lead with compassion. Mm-hmm. And so I believe that there is a big unfinished agenda in South Africa. It is not just the failure, in fact, of our socio-economic transformation stems from our failure to liberate ourselves from the notion that white people are better. We still spend more than 4 billion rand as women on hair that is bought from wherever, so that we can look like we are not African. It's awful, it's terrible, it's unfortunate, and I believe that women in South Africa must emulate the mothers and the gogos of 1956 and break new ground. The men had accepted the passes as inevitable. The women said no. Why can't we again stand up as women and say no to this denial of our Africanness, no to our failure to embrace Ubuntu, no to our failure to show love and nurturance to our children so they are not pulled into the direction of drugs and alcohol and gangsterism.
And I suppose what we can also say no to is the brutal killings of women. I mean, we've reported quite extensively on so many stories of such brutal killings of girls and women. I mean, we cannot continue to be a society that is so desensitized about violence against women. So what is, in your view, making it so hard to protect women and girls? Are we a psychologically wounded society?
We are indeed, but the lack of leadership from the top about modeling this compassionate leadership. You cannot have a president and cabinet ministers driving around with a trail of expensive cars when people go to bed hungry. And that makes people, particularly poor black people, feel even more inferior, feel that even people who look like them don't care about them. And that's what's driving gangsterism. They are looking for a family in that gang that is unfortunately a trap of killings. Now, the killing of women is, again, that sense in men that why should she succeed when I'm failing?
Right.
Look at that woman who was a young scientist. She gets an award and then she gets killed. Look at the women who were killed in Polokwane, my town, who were their successful partners in business, women, killed by one of the husbands or the husband of one of the women. I mean, it is men are being devoured inside themselves by this masculinity, which is toxic. And it shows also that they are not feeling that they are men enough. They are not feeling that they are worthy of respect. Self-respect comes first. Respect for others then engenders respect for the person who's showing respect. And so Ubuntu is exactly what we should be embracing. We need healing. Heal ourselves with the wisdom of our ancestors who taught us that to be human is to be interconnected, interdependent within the web of life. It's not just human life that we should care about. We should care about our ecosystem, our planet, Mother Earth that gives us life, needs us to treat it also with compassion.
All right, Dr. Ramphele, lovely chatting to you. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us, and happy Women's Month. We certainly hope that you will continue being that imbowodo that is a model of inspiration for everyone. Great chatting to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that is Dr. Mamphela Ramphele, who is a businesswoman, an activist, and a former UCT Vice-Chancellor and a former Managing Director of the World Bank. This is as part of our continuing Women's Feature this August.